The discovery. The communication room fell silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. On the main screen, images flickered. A planet, green fields, blue skies, cities that once held millions of lives. But now, nothing, just silence, just death. Commander Sarah Chen stared at the screen. Her hands gripped the edge of the console. Her knuckles turned white. "How many?" she whispered. The young technician's voice shook. 12 billion, Commander. All of them. The entire Velan species. 12 billion. The number was too big to understand. Too horrible to accept. Sarah had seen war before. She was a soldier. She knew death. But this was different. This wasn't war. This was murder. This was genocide. How long did it take? She asked. 3 days, Mom. The Krell Empire attacked without warning. They destroyed everything. Cities, farms, schools, hospitals. The technician paused. His face looked pale. They even destroyed the evacuation ships. The Velans tried to run. The Krell hunted them down. Sarah closed her eyes. 3 days. An entire species erased in 3 days. Get me Ambassador Rodriguez. Now. The Galactic Council chamber was the most important place in known space. Here, 200 species gathered. Here they made decisions. Here they kept peace, or so they claimed. Ambassador Marcus Rodriguez sat in Earth's chair. Around him, aliens of every shape and size filled the massive room. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some were tall. Some were small. But right now they all looked the same to him. They all looked like cowards. The Krell ambassador stood at the center. He was tall. His skin was dark red. His forearms moved as he spoke. His voice was loud and proud. The Velan problem has been solved, he announced. They refused to leave our territory. They refused our generous offers. They left us no choice, no choice. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. 12 billion dead, and this monster called it no choice. This is genocide, shouted a small bird-like alien. You murdered an entire species. The Krell ambassador laughed. Actually laughed. Murder? No, this was justice. This was necessity. The Velans were weak. Weakness has consequences. Other ambassadors spoke. Some were angry. Some were scared. But Marcus noticed something. Nobody was doing anything. They were just talking. Just debating. Just wasting time. As always. The council president, a wise old being called Torvan, raised his hand. The room went quiet. The council will investigate, he said slowly. We will form a committee. We will study the evidence. We will do nothing, Marcus interrupted. Everyone turned to look at him. The human ambassador stood up slowly. His face showed no emotion. His voice was calm. Too calm. Excuse me? Torvan asked. You'll do nothing, Marcus repeated. You'll form a committee. You'll have meetings. You'll write reports. And while you do all that, the Krell will celebrate their genocide. Just like you let them celebrate the last 3. The room exploded. Aliens shouted. Some agreed. Some were angry. But Marcus didn't care. Ambassador Rodriguez. Torvan's voice was stern. You are out of order. No, Marcus said quietly. You are. This council is. The Velans needed help. They needed protection. They needed action. He looked around the room. They needed warriors. You gave them lawyers. The Krell ambassador stepped forward. His smile was cruel. And what would you do, human? Your species joined the council 50 years ago. You agreed to our rules. You agreed to be civilized, to be peaceful. He laughed again. Face it. Humans are farmers now. Scientists, you're not warriors anymore. Marcus stared at the Krell. For a long moment he said nothing. Then something changed in his eyes. Something cold. Something old. Something that made even the Krell take a step back. We need a moment, Marcus said softly. The human delegation needs to discuss this situation, privately. Of course, Torvan nodded. We will take a break. Marcus walked out of the chamber. The other human delegates followed. The door closed behind them. Inside the council chamber, aliens whispered. The humans are scared, one said. They're running away. Another agreed. The Krell ambassador smiled. I told you, they're weak. But Torvan, who had lived for 300 years, who had seen 1,000 species come and go, said nothing. He had read Earth's history. He had studied their wars. He knew something the others didn't. Humans weren't weak. Humans had chosen to be peaceful. There was a difference, and that difference was about to change everything. In a secure room, Marcus made a call. The screen showed an old woman. She wore a simple uniform. Her hair was grey. Her face had many wrinkles, but her eyes were sharp as knives. "Fleet Admiral Patterson," Marcus said, "I need you to activate Protocol 7. The Admiral's face didn't change. She had been waiting for this call. They all had been waiting, all of them, she asked. "All of them," Marcus confirmed. The Admiral nodded once. "It'll take 48 hours to mobilize." "What should I tell them?" Marcus thought about the Velan children, about the families, about 12 billion voices that would never speak again. "Tell them," he said slowly, "that humanity is done playing Civilized." The screen went dark. Across Earth, in bunkers and bases that hadn't been used in 50 years, lights began to turn on. Old machines woke up. Silent ships started to hum with power. And in orbit around Earth, satellites began to move. The galaxy was about to remember something it had forgotten. Humans knew how to be peaceful, but they also knew how to make war, and they had never forgotten which one they were better at. What they forgot, the Krell High Command celebrated their victory. Wine flowed. Music played. Generals laughed and shared stories of their glorious conquest. General Throck stood at the center of the Grand Hall. His forearms raised high. His voice boomed across the room. "The Velans are gone. Our empire grows stronger, and the weak council does nothing." He laughed. "Especially those pathetic humans." They ran away like frightened children. The other Krell officers cheered. They raised their glasses. They celebrated genocide like it was a holiday. "General," a young officer approached carefully. "The humans, they left the council. Should we be concerned?" Throck's laughter grew louder. "Concerned? About humans?" He grabbed the young officer's shoulder. "Listen carefully. Humans are farmers. They grow food. They build houses. They make art." He leaned closer. "They are not warriors." "But sir, their history is history." Throck interrupted. "They gave up war 50 years ago. They destroyed most of their weapons. They became soft, civilized." He spat the last word like it was poison. "They are no threat to the mighty Krell Empire." The young officer nodded, but something in his eyes showed doubt. Throck didn't notice. He returned to his celebration. None of them noticed the storm that was coming. On Earth, in a small house in the countryside, an old man sat on his porch. His name was James Wilson. He was 83 years old. His hands shook slightly when he held his coffee cup. His back hurt most mornings. He looked like someone's grandfather. Sweet, harmless, gentle. But 50 years ago, James Wilson had a different name. Captain Wilson, commander of the Third Fleet, a man who had fought in Earth's last great war. His phone rang. James looked at the screen. The number made his heart beat faster. He hadn't seen that number in half a century. "This is Wilson," he answered. "Captain Wilson," a voice said. "This is Fleet Admiral Patterson. We're activating Protocol 7. James was quiet for a long moment. He looked at his peaceful garden, at the flowers his wife had planted, at the bird feeder his grandchildren loved. "How bad is it?" he asked softly. "Genocide. 12 billion dead." The council did nothing. James closed his eyes. He had hoped he would never hear those words again. He had hoped humanity's war days were over. "When do you need me?" "Yesterday." James stood up slowly. His back still hurt. His hands still shook. But something else woke up inside him. Something he thought had died long ago. "I'll be there in 6 hours." Around the world, similar calls were made. Thousands of them, old soldiers, retired officers, men and women who had spent 50 years trying to forget the things they had done, the things they had seen. They all answered. Every single one. In Japan, a 70-year-old grandmother left her tea shop. She had been a pilot once, the best in her squadron. In Brazil, a man closed his bookstore. He had been an engineer. He had designed weapons that scared even his own commanders. In Russia, a woman kissed her husband goodbye. She had been a strategist. She had won battles before they even started. They came from everywhere. Old bodies, young spirits, warriors who had chosen peace. But peace had failed. The shipyards of Earth had been quiet for decades. They built trade ships now, cargo vessels, scientific explorers, peaceful things. But the old military shipyards were different. They had been sealed, locked away. Humanity had promised the Council they would never build warships again. They had kept that promise. but they had never destroyed the blueprints. Admiral Patterson stood in the main control room. Around her, engineers worked frantically. Computer screens glowed. Machines hummed to life. How long? She asked. 40 hours to convert the first wave, her chief engineer replied. We're pulling every civilian ship we can. Cargo haulers, mining vessels, construction ships. We're adding weapons, shields, engines, and the mothball fleet. The engineer smiled. The old warships? They'll be ready in 36 hours. Those beautiful machines, we kept them maintained. Just in case, Patterson repeated quietly. She looked at the screens. Hundreds of ships being transformed. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't elegant. But it would work. A young lieutenant approached. She looked nervous. Admiral, the council is demanding an explanation. They're asking why we're mobilizing. They say we're breaking our treaty. Patterson turned slowly. Her face showed no emotion. Tell the council, she said clearly, that we're going on a farming expedition. Ma'am, the Krell think we're farmers. Let's not disappoint them. Her eyes went cold. Tell the council that humans are about to harvest something very important. What should I say we're harvesting, Admiral? Patterson looked at the screens. At the ships. At the weapons being loaded. Justice. 3 days later the fleet was ready. Not the whole fleet, not even close. But enough, more than enough. 500 ships hung in orbit around Earth. Some were old warships. Some were converted civilian vessels. All of them carried weapons. All of them carried angry humans who were done being civilized. Captain Wilson stood on the bridge of the flagship Vengeance. He wore his old uniform. It still fit, mostly. Around him his crew worked. Some were young. Some were old like him. All of them knew what they were about to do. Captain, the communications officer called. We're receiving a message from Mars Colony. They're asking what's happening. People are scared. Wilson understood. Humanity had been peaceful for so long. Seeing the war fleet return was frightening. Send a general broadcast, Wilson ordered. All human colonies. All Earth stations. Ready, sir. Wilson took a deep breath. People of Earth. People of humanity. I know you're scared. I know you're confused. For 50 years we've been peaceful. We've been good neighbors. We've followed the rules. He paused. But 12 billion innocent people are dead. And nobody did anything. Nobody stopped it. Nobody punished it. His voice grew harder. We became civilized. We stopped being warriors. But we never forgot how. And today we remember. Another pause. We're not doing this because we're monsters. We're doing this because somebody has to. The council won't protect the weak. So we will. The ship began to move. Slowly at first. Then faster. We'll be back soon, Wilson promised. And when we return, the galaxy will know something important. Humans choose peace, but we choose it. It's not chosen for us. The fleet accelerated. 500 ships. 500 spears of human anger. They disappeared into faster-than-light travel. Behind them, Earth watched and waited. Ahead of them, the Krell Empire had no idea what was coming. They were about to learn something important. Humans weren't farmers because they were weak. They were farmers because they chose to be, and they could unchoose it very, very quickly. Part 3. The Krell Learn. The Krell Border Station. Victory's Gate floated peacefully in space. It was huge, armed with enough weapons to destroy a small planet, defended by shields that could stop anything, or so they thought. Commander Zethic sat in his chair, bored. Guard duty was always boring. Nothing ever happened at the border. Who would dare attack the mighty Krell Empire? Commander, a young sensor operator called. I'm detecting something. What is it? Zethic didn't even look up from his reports. Ships, sir. Multiple ships. They just dropped out of FTL, probably traders. Send them the standard warning, sir. There are a lot of them. My screen shows 200? No, wait. More are appearing. 300. 400. Now Zethic looked up. What species? The operator checked his screen. His face went pale. Human, sir. Silence filled the command center. Then someone laughed. Humans, the farmers. What are they going to do? Throw vegetables at us? Others joined the laughter. Even Zethic smiled. Probably a trade convoy that got lost. Send them away. Tell them. The station shook hard. Alarms screamed. Red lights flashed everywhere. What was that? Zethic shouted. They fired on us. The humans fired on us. Impossible. Raise shields. Return fire. The station's massive weapons turned toward the human fleet. They fired. Huge blasts of energy shot through space, but the human ships moved. Fast, faster than anything Zethic had ever seen. They dodged. They weaved. They danced through space like birds, and they kept firing, shields at 60%, 50%. Hull breach on Deck 7. Zethic couldn't believe it. This was Victory's Gate, the strongest border station in the Empire, and it was losing. Send distress signal. Call for backup! Tell them we're under. Another explosion. Bigger this time. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in. Commander, engineering is gone. Life support failing. We need to evacuate. Zethic stared at the screen. The human ships surrounded them. Hundreds of them, like wolves around wounded prey. How? He whispered. They're just farmers. The communications officer's voice shook. Sir, they're hailing us. On screen, a human face appeared, old, weathered, grey hair. But his eyes were cold as ice. Krell Station, the human said calmly. You have 30 seconds to evacuate. After that, we destroy your station completely. This is your only warning. You can't do this, Zethic shouted. The council laws. The rules of war. The human's expression didn't change. The Valens followed the rules. It didn't save them. You broke the rules first. We're just following your example. The screen went dark. Evacuate, Zethic screamed. Everyone to the escape pods now. 2 minutes later, Victory's Gate exploded. It had stood for 40 years. It died in 6 minutes. The escape pods drifted in space. The human ships didn't fire on them. They just let them float. Inside one pod, Zethic watched his station burn. Around it, the human fleet moved to the next target. For the first time in his life, Commander Zethic felt real fear. Krell High Command received the news in shock. Victory's Gate is destroyed, and Station Gamma and Station Theta and the military port at Kelvin 5. All of them. In 6 hours, General Throg's face turned darker red. How many humans? 500 ships, sir. Maybe more. 500? Throg stood up. We have 2,000 warships. Send the 5th Fleet. Crush these insects. The aide hesitated. Sir, Admiral Kresh already sent the 5th Fleet. Good. When will they engage? They already did, sir. And? The aide looked down. The 5th Fleet no longer exists, General. All 300 ships destroyed in 20 minutes. The room went silent. 20 minutes. 300 warships gone. That's impossible, someone whispered. Throg grabbed the aide. Show me the battle recordings, now! They watched the footage in horror. The Krell fleet had formed proper battle formations. They had followed proper tactics. They had done everything right. It didn't matter. The human ships moved like nothing they'd ever seen. They appeared. They fired. They disappeared. They didn't fight like civilized species. They fought like predators. One Krell captain tried to surrender. The humans accepted. They took prisoners. They followed that rule at least, but they showed no mercy to ships that kept fighting. Zoom in on that ship, Throg ordered. The screen showed a human warship. It was old, ancient by military standards, but it moved like it was alive. Its weapons fired with perfect accuracy. Every shot hit. Every shot counted. What kind of weapons are those? An officer asked. I don't know, the weapons expert replied. I've never seen anything like them. The energy signatures are. They're not from any technology the Council knows about. Because they never showed us, Throg realized. For 50 years we thought humans were weak. We thought they'd given up war. He sat down heavily. They didn't give up war. They just put it away. What do we do, General? Throg thought hard. He was a warrior. He had fought many battles, won many victories, but this was different. How long until they reach our core systems? At their current speed, 4 days, and our homeworld, 7 days, sir. 7 days. The mighty Krell Empire had 7 days before humans arrived at their home. Call every fleet, Throg ordered. Every ship, every station. Bring them all back. We defend the homeworld, but sir, that will leave our colonies undefended. The colonies don't matter if our homeworld falls, Throg roared. Orders went out. The great Krell Empire, which had conquered a dozen species, which had ruled with fear and strength, pulled back its forces. For the first time in 100 years, the Krell ran. Captain Wilson watched the reports coming in. His fleet had destroyed 47 military installations. They had crippled 6 Krell battle fleets. They had pushed 3 light years into Krell space. Total human losses, 12 ships, 243 casualties. Captain, his first officer said quietly. The crew is asking questions about what we're doing. If we're becoming like them. Wilson understood. War changed people, made them hard, made them cold. Are we targeting civilians? He asked. No, sir. Are we attacking hospitals, schools, homes? No, sir. Only military targets. Are we killing prisoners? No, sir. We're treating them well, following all proper protocols. Wilson nodded. Then we're not like them. The Krell killed everyone. Men, women, children. They destroyed a species. He looked at his officer. We're destroying a military. There's a difference. But, sir, some of the crew say we're enjoying this, that we're too good at it. Wilson was quiet for a moment. We are good at it, he finally said. Humans are very, very good at war. That's why we stopped. That's why we chose peace. He looked out at the stars. But the galaxy forgot what we were. They thought peace made us weak. He turned back to his officer. They're learning the truth now. Peace didn't make us weak. Peace made us merciful. And mercy, he paused. Mercy is a choice. It can be taken away. The officer nodded and left. Wilson stood alone on the bridge. He looked at his reflection in the dark screen. An old man, a warrior who'd tried to become a farmer. I'm sorry, he whispered to his reflection, to the person he used to be, to the peaceful life he'd left behind. But he wasn't sorry enough to stop. The Valens deserved justice, and justice was coming. In 7 days, the Krell homeworld would see human ships in their sky, and they would understand true fear. Because humans had learned something important long ago. The best way to keep peace is to be very, very good at war. The Galaxy Watch's the Galactic Council emergency session was chaos. 200 species shouting at once. Screens showed battles, destruction, the mighty Krell Empire falling apart, and humans doing all of it. Ambassador Torvin struck his staff on the floor 3 times. The sound echoed. The room slowly went quiet. Order, he commanded. We must have order. Order. A reptilian ambassador stood up. The humans are destroying an entire empire. Where is the order in that? The Krell committed genocide. Another voice called out, and now the humans are doing the same. No, a small furry creature spoke up. The humans are only attacking military targets. I've reviewed all the reports. No civilian casualties, none. Yet. Someone shouted. What happens when they reach the Krell homeworld? Will they show mercy then? Torvan raised his hand for silence again. He looked tired. Old. In his 300 years, he had never seen anything like this. Ambassador Torvan, a holographic projection appeared. It was the Krell Emperor himself. He looked desperate, scared. You must stop the humans. Order them to cease their attack. They are violating council law. Torvan stared at the Emperor for a long moment. Like you violated council law when you committed genocide. The Emperor's face went pale. That was different. That was murder. Torvan interrupted. That was murder. And this council did nothing. We debated. We formed committees. We wrote reports. His voice grew harder. The humans are doing what we should have done. They are bringing justice by destroying us, by destroying your military. There is a difference. The projection flickered and disappeared. The council erupted again. Half wanted to stop the humans. Half wanted to let them continue. Nobody knew what to do. A quiet voice spoke from the back. Everyone turned. It was Ambassador Cathar of the Valen survivors. Only 10,000 Velans remained alive. They had been off-planet when the genocide happened. Cathar was one of them. May I speak? She asked softly. The room went silent. Everyone knew her pain. Everyone knew her loss. Please. Torvan nodded. Cathar walked to the center slowly. She was small, fragile-looking. Her skin was blue and covered in scales. Her eyes held tears. 12 billion of my people died, she began. 12 billion mothers, fathers, children, babies, all gone. Her voice cracked. We begged this council for help. We begged for protection. We begged for justice. She looked around the room. You did nothing. You talked. You debated. You followed your procedures. A tear rolled down her cheek. And my people died while you talked. Ambassador Cathar, someone started. No, I'm not finished. Her voice grew stronger. The humans are doing what you should have done. They are punishing evil. They are showing the galaxy that genocide has consequences. She wiped her tears. Are they violent? Yes. Are they scary? Yes, but they are doing the right thing. But at what cost? An ambassador asked. If we allow this, what stops other species from taking justice into their own hands? What stops chaos? Cathar looked at him directly. What stops genocide if no one punishes it? No one had an answer. Captain Wilson stood on the bridge of the Vengeance. Around him the fleet waited. Hundreds of ships, all pointed at one planet, Krell Prime, the homeworld of the Krell Empire. It hung in space before them. Beautiful, blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. 6 billion Krell lived on that world. 6 billion people who had nothing to do with the genocide. Captain, his weapons officer said, all ships report ready. Weapons charged. We can begin bombardment on your order. Wilson stared at the planet. He thought about the Velans, about 12 billion dead, about justice. He thought about his grandchildren back on Earth, about the flowers in his garden, about peace. Open a channel, he ordered. Broadcast to the entire planet. All frequencies. Channel open, sir. Wilson took a deep breath. People of Krell Prime, this is Captain James Wilson of the Earth Fleet. We are here because your military committed genocide. They murdered 12 billion innocent Velans. They destroyed an entire species. He paused. We have destroyed your military. Your fleets are gone. Your stations are destroyed. Your empire's ability to make war is finished. Another pause. And now we are here, above your world, with enough firepower to do to you what you did to the Velans. On the planet below, billions of Krell watched their screens in terror. They saw the human ships, so many of them, like stars filling their sky. We could end your species in hours, Wilson continued. We could turn your cities to ash, your oceans to steam, your world to a dead rock. His voice grew quieter. We could, but we won't. Silence, both in space and on the planet. We won't, Wilson repeated. Because we are not you. We are not monsters. We are not murderers. He looked directly at the camera. Your military is gone. Your empire is broken. But your people will live. Your children will grow up. Your families will remain. He leaned forward. But hear this. Remember this. If you ever commit genocide again, if you ever threaten innocent lives again, we will return. And next time, we won't be merciful. The transmission ended. Wilson turned to his crew. All ships, begin withdrawal. We're going home, sir. His first officer looked confused. We're just leaving. We came here to stop genocide, to punish evil, to bring justice. Wilson looked at the planet one more time, not to become genocidal ourselves. Justice is done. Now we go home. The fleet turned. Slowly, the ships moved away from Krell Prime. On the planet below, billions of Krell watched them go. Some cried with relief. Some felt shame. All of them understood something now. Humans were more civilized than their own leaders had been. In the Krell Palace, Emperor Throck watched the human fleet leave. He had expected death, expected destruction, expected his world to burn. Instead, the humans had shown mercy. His advisors stood around him, silent. They could have killed us all, one finally whispered. Yes, Throck replied quietly. Why didn't they? Throck thought about his celebrations, his pride, his speeches about Krell's superiority, his laughter at the weak humans. Because they are better than us, he admitted. It was the hardest thing he'd ever said. On the Vengeance, Captain Wilson sat in his quarters alone. His hands shook, not from fear, from relief, from exhaustion, from the weight of what he'd almost done. A message came through. It was from Admiral Patterson back on Earth. Captain Wilson, well done. The Council is requesting a meeting. They want to discuss new rules, new laws. They're scared of us now. Wilson smiled sadly. Good fear prevents war sometimes better than peace. Are you okay, James? Wilson looked at his hands. Old hands, warrior's hands, hands that had ordered so much destruction. I will be, he said. Once I'm home, once I can be a grandfather again instead of a captain. Soon, Patterson promised. You're 3 days from Earth. 3 days. 3 days until he could try to forget what he'd done, what he'd become. 3 days until he could try to be human again, not the scary kind, the peaceful kind. The transmission ended. Wilson stood and looked out at the stars. Behind them, the Krell Empire lay broken, Ahead of them, Earth waited, and somewhere in between, the galaxy was learning a new lesson. Humans chose peace, but they were very, very good at war, and that combination, that made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because they were violent, but because they knew when to be violent and when to show mercy. That wisdom, that was true power.